Yes.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order at 10:10. We've got definitely a quorum and we're ready to proceed forward. We'll go ahead and open up with public comment.
I'll pass.
Anybody else? No? No public
I
comment?
will just make a comment regarding, last month, there was a comment made, and the comment basically had to do with what we're here to do, which is to keep our downtown vibrant, but it did, address the marginalized society. And after the meeting, I did have to speak with the individual, but I want us to always remember that too, we cannot put everybody in the same category as to how we, as an individual, may or may not contribute or assist or care for those that are marginalized. That's one comment. The other comment was one that was offensive, but because I am new here, I decided, I kind of passed on making a comment to that comment. But it was a coy, and I did not appreciate it, because we have to realize that we're a mixed company and we cannot say everything that we feel, even though it was, I'm sure all of you remember it, because it was like I was in shock, and then I wanted to say, did I really hear that? But just remember that we are a mixed company and we cannot say everything that may come to our mind at any given time, because we think it's okay. We can't do that.
Right.
And so I want to make that clear, that, we just remember that we are here to serve a purpose, and that we are here to help and not to hinder, and that, we will always have the marginalized in society. We will always. And some of us take care of that sector in different ways, but we cannot group, and we, as business owners, we do have the right to protect our property, to see it grow, to see it vibrant, and if it means that we need to clean up, we have to clean up.
Thank you. Comments?
I'll take a turn. So I didn't come here to be confrontational or anything, so apologize if that's what it turns into. I mean, it sounded really good, like yeah, no, we care about everybody. And then it was like, yeah, but me first. I mean, are we considering other people's property? If we're going to clean up, how do we make sure, if we actually care about people, how are we going to make sure that they maintain their personal property? How are we not going to openly discriminate against, oh, well, they're all that way? Because that basically is what I keep hearing in this level of consciousness and speak and the way, what's your motivation, what's your intention. And it does need to include people. You can go ahead and pick your profit all you want. You're going to do that anyway. But to dehumanize people on a daily basis in just casual conversation, it's going to offend me. And you don't think I'm going to say that homeless is the new N-word? Of course it is, dude. Because it ain't got nothing to do with color anymore. It's got everything to do with how much you got in your pocket. So now it's more imaginary than it is physical. Do you see how many people are struggling? Just they're disabled already, and they're going to take away their walker, they're going to take away their wheelchair, they're going to take away the man's leg, his prosthetic leg. There are people that die and we put up headstones. Oh, well, that shouldn't be there. Well, they didn't deserve to die in the street like that either. We say we're going to help them, but yet nope. First of all, cops come and rob you first. Oh, just wait in line. Don't worry about it. You're signing for services. There's a lot of money being made off of this suffering. And I hope that you're starting to realize that. I mean, I'm trying to work with you folks because you have a lot of power and influence. And of course you do. And you want to make sure, you talk to Margaret, well, make sure you get your in. That's cool.
We're at 2 minutes.
All right.
Thank you
Well,
for your comments.
help me stop the sweeps. I would appreciate it.
We're going to move on to the consent agenda. We have the minutes for June 2025.
Wes cannot use the word, it's the new N-word. I cannot.
N-word ain't do.
You just can't do that in this sector. You can't do that.
Wow. Take it overly personal. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna put it out there, you can't.
I agree with her.
Of course you do.
Cool.
You hate one group, but loving, hating me is word even better. Go ahead.
We're gonna have to hear everyone's side without such discord, otherwise we can't keep, yeah, we're not, I mean, I understand your point, and I'm glad you're saying it too, because we have to hear all sides without hate and anger coming from either, because how do we work together and solve problems if we are coming at each other with hate and anger? It doesn't allow us to work together collaboratively. So we're going to move on to the consent agenda. We have the minutes for June 2025, and we've got our financial report for June 2025. Then we're taking a look at any public comments on those items. Questions, deliberation from the board on these matters. Is there a motion we have on them? If none,
I do have one question. Why do we have $10,000 in debt?
Pay back the city for formation fees.
Okay, so it's a long term.
They fronted the cost. Are we on the consent, the minutes only? Are we doing the
say that again.
financial settlement?
Yeah, we'll do them separately. So we'll do the minutes first. Any comments on the minutes or deliberation?
Motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
All abstaining, I wasn't there.
We'll move on to the financials and get to your question for 2025.
So yeah, so we started off with a 50,000, I think, loan, basically. The city fronted the cost for the initial consultant back at our formation. And so we have been reimbursing them $5,000 a year over like a 10-year period. So that by the time essentially our group would be done and ready for relocation and established, they would be paid off. Originally, I know we went to the city when you were president, I think, requesting them to waive it. Because when we look at every other city that established this is really the first city that ever held the ground demanding that it be paid. So, you know, it's a done deal. So we'll pay $5,000 before end of fiscal year this year, and then next year, make them pay.
Next year will be over with, right? Will be.
I forget the deadline. I don't recall it, but it's
50, so if it's 9 years, that's, I think that's 45.
FYI, on the next financials, you will see a $5,000 payment because that check is in the rotation right now. I need to pick it up, get it signed by you whenever, and then that will drop down another $5,000.
Yep.
And the city's paying into it anyway, so they're
Yeah.
reimbursing.
Sitting back there with that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Excuse me?
Thank you.
No other questions? Is there a motion on the table for the financial report?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll move on to the presentations. The president's report, I don't have a report for us today. Treasurer, do you have a report for us?
Not really. I think it's kind of all expenses are kind of normal monthly things. I do want to meet with DISI to kind of go over kind of between now and end of year, kind of plans, financially where we're at, and then as far as, splitting between grants and, the DISI funds,
Maybe next week or the following.
something like that, yeah.
Greg, I have a question. How much of the funds that we have right now are grant funds, versus
That's
just the funds that are, no, I realize that, but I didn't see that. We're going to have to review the report, so I was just curious.
So if you just look at the page 1 assets, you'll have the checking operating account, which are assessment funds, and then you'll have the checking grants account, which is the grant funds.
And how much is that?
So we've got 111,000 in grant funds. Yep.
Are they restricted or unrestricted?
They're both. Some of them are more like art specific, it's gotta be spent on art stuff.
Murals, yeah.
Some of the other ones we've been getting more recently have been more, more like for program support. So kind of, fairly loose in what we can, spend it on.
Are those a community foundation?
Correct, yeah, those are pretty loose. They do have some itemized, like they'll be, they want district identity, they want so much of it, staff support, so much of it,
Oh,
there
so
are-
it's
there are
allocated like
some-
that, and then,
The last one we just finished had like an allocation of what kind of, generally what they wanted it toward. It wasn't just a blank check to use in however we want,
okay.
so.
Do you have a breakout of 111
I do, but not here. So I have a spreadsheet showing what's left of them, which ones have been paid off completely, and what remains on others.
Okay, but I guess I'm thinking more about uses. Like, I have this color-coded chart of what the minimum dollars I get grants, and all these charities I work on. And it's color-coded that you can tell, green I can spend on anything,
Yeah.
red I can't only spend on whatever.
So I've got it by grant.
Okay.
So they're kind of looked for us. Some grants are exhausted.
Because you
some
were
grants
asking
are
about
not.
DISI in particular, that's not all DISI, that's everybody, right?
I just asked the question in general, like how much is restricted or we can't use it just for like, if there's projects that this board wants to undertake, what's that flexibility look like? It sounds like certain grants that have been received are limited to certain purposes, so.
Most of them are through DISI, and so most of them are for like streetscape improvements or district identity as well.
And if you guys have an interest in a project or something, share it with us and then we figure out a way. to
Yeah,
make
no,
something
exactly,
work.
and it'll come when I do my land use report, but I was just, because we're on the financial report, I
Yeah.
thought I would ask that question.
If I can interject, for what it's worth, our grant writer has also advised us to be more specific in our grant asking versus they want, the grantors want more like, hey, what are you going to do with this? District identity. Are you looking to really clean up the place, or is it just support for whatever? And so we are having more success asking for specific things. So just heads up.
Recently, there was some one for more like tree planting
Right.
and more like
Yeah.
landscaping type thing. I know there's been talk of parking study, and I'm assuming that's what you're going.
Exactly, yeah.
And I know my feeling with that is that if we're going to do that, I think that needs to be like, I wouldn't want to spend on that until we either have authorization from an existing grantor.
We could talk about it.
Yeah, or a specific grant, earmarked for them.
The other thing you'll find is that grantors now want detailed reports about what you're spending the money on.
Correct, so end of the year,
Yeah.
we need to send them a list of what we're.
We comply with all of the requirements, and we send them an end of year report.
They're getting 14s.
And
Of course.
Laura
Which is good, they should
Harris
be,
is
we
good
want
at
that.
keeping tabs. She's the one who gets the grants for us, and then she kind of does the follow-up for the year-end reports on it. So it's kind of nice because it's on.
Accountability for all this grant funding that people receive, I think is good.
But we're kind of a weird animal in the sense that we can't say, we served 500 kids, or we've done this for this group, or we've done that for this group. It's more of our reports are much more general, like, by doing this, we allowed these parades to have X amount of, so.
But give us your wish list, and then let's incorporate that into any of the proposals we have. We want everyone's dream to come true. Okay, anything else for the treasurer?
Nope.
District coordinator?
Not a whole lot. It'll be tackled under DISI.
Okay. Public comment? Any questions from the board? We'll move on to our Ad-Hoc Committees, DISI being the first one. I'll let you go. You had some information, Greg. I'll share a little bit. I didn't read her full text. I didn't have time. I was from one meeting to the next today. So I didn't get a chance to read it all. But I read the part where she said you would talk.
Yeah.
So I went, okay, I don't need to read that reading. But I did want to share, we do have a mural underway. Can you pull it up?
I'm not currently. I mean, I can pull it up on the.
Yeah,
my
it
iPad.
has that going. Maybe we can pass it around.
Terribly annoying.
I'm sorry. Working on my annoying skills. Just ask me. We have another mural that is going to be put up on the other side of Patria, the La Fagata side. We've got some drafts of it. We're putting in a permit. We're waiting to get approval from the Arts Council in August, which is really exciting to complete that whole
This
mural
center is the foliage,
alleyway.
and then these two are the edges, like left and right side cut in half.
So it'll say, welcome to the Salinas City Center on it, and that'll potentially be a corridor for people walking through after they've parked their car. So any feedback or thoughts, please share, we can email it out too, we'd love.
Do we know what's going on with Block
Nothing.
No idea, we just
My
know,
only fear would be there would be some major remodel,
we got
target overhaul that would demo that wall.
We have permission from the owner at this point to do this.
Okay?
We got that last year with
We
the
haven't
license to
seen
do it
owner
for,
though.
sorry?
Who's the owner?
I've met her once.
But will you go through her realtor? You don't get access to her, you get access to her realtor.
And they're just very hard to get a hold of.
Are they local or?
I think they're
Out of
local.
town. No, I think
Who's
she's
the
out of
realtor?
town.
She's out of town?
Yeah, I think she's
Oh.
out of town.
I'll
Who's
see
the
how
realtor?
May?
Some lady named May.
Is that the wall, there is already something painted
Yeah.
on it, okay, so we're
It's like a desert scape.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that desert scape has been there as long as I can remember. Done by some old, public works employee who I believe actually passed away during COVID. Because he was elderly, not because he got sick. Yeah, it's been there forever and a day. So,
under question up.
yes.
Should be traffic.
Well, it'll help tie in that whole corridor a little bit more. It's different artists. We thought that it was better to go, it was so tempting to go with Hijos del Sol because they did the other side, but to share the wealth and,
Is it another local artist?
it's another local artist, yeah.
Who is it?
Smiley, I forget his full name, Smiley.
I think it's on there. It's actually
Yeah.
Eric something. and
Yeah, Eric Smiley,
It's on the next page above it.
him and his team.
Now you tell.
So we're working on approval for that. That's what I have, wanted to share. So, great, please go ahead.
All right, so staying on the mural thing, I am in contact with another artist to do like a 10 by 10, 15 by 15 mural on the side of 201 Main. And that's the immersive mural we keep talking about, and it's taking just a long time. Keep missing each other, missing phone calls, he had some family issues, whatever. So, but I'm prodding him, I'm doing, bugging him. And he's the guy that, if you guys are familiar with what happened last year when it went viral, the boat on the fence, that's him.
Oh.
So,
Oh.
yeah. And he was one of the helpers or sub-artists on the Fox mural. So if you look at, it says Hanif, that's him.
He's
So,
talented.
Yeah, he does some cool stuff. So he's working on some proposals for us. I'm waiting to get them in. So that's happening. The message that Jenna couldn't make it, her nanny had to cancel. We had the Edible Monterey event at Heirloom Pizza the 25th of June.
Sorry, I was out of town.
So it was a great success, lots of people showed up. We raffled off 10 gift cards to various downtown eateries and drinkeries, coffee shops, whatnot, Mangia, Patria, all those places. So that was great, we had fun. A lot of people showed up, about 100 and something showed up. So everybody was happy. We had the Money Band play for a while, or actually it was a Money Duo. The whole band didn't show up, it was just two of them.
You got shortchanged.
So, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, you're just full of these little quips, aren't you? Anyway, so we're collecting some pictures, some stories. We're featuring different restaurants or facilities in these magazines. So far, we featured Heirloom, Alvarado, Carnival when they were open, Portobello, Via Azteca, Amapola, Sushi de Ruma, and XL Public House. For the next ad, there's Mangia, Brugi, Autos, and she's trying to get a few more. And there's, on the other, further advertising, we have an ad in the Monterey Visitors Guide, and all of our videos that we've done with Alex Garcia with Magwan Media, spotlighting various places downtown. They're starting to roll out. We're putting them on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Maybe you've seen the first one that's out there already with Eric Dutu, I'm assuming the name.
It's Reno DiTullio.
Reno, sorry, Reno.
Timothy's son, yeah. He used to live at 301 Main Street, so kind of the perfect candidate. He also worked downtown. So he was the true live, work, play downtown person who.
Yeah, I think everything is within that 500-foot radius for him. So that was kind of who we highlighted in that reel, so that worked out nice. Overall, the response has been positive. A few comments were like, wow, this guy must be loaded if he goes out to dinner 3 times a day. Because that was in the ad. First I go here, then I go here, then I go here. And so people are like, what does this guy do? So that was kind of funny.
He's
Yeah, he's a little bit.
He works for Taylor Farms.
Yeah, but he's skinny as a rail, so I don't know, he doesn't eat much. So that's good. Furthermore, Jenna's working on the Google Ads rollout of these videos as well. And that's it on the marketing side, I believe. We also did we got banners up for 4th of July just in time. There was some coordination efforts, and the initial product that we bought to hang up,
The alleyway decorations.
alleyway decorations, didn't work out. So we had to get new stuff. Basically what happened is we would hang it in the wind and just tore it up in a second. So we got some heavier duty, what are those things called, sashes? Bunting. Bunting, thank you, sir. And they look nice, and they're hardy enough where we can reuse them. That's it for DISI, I think. Yeah. Any questions?
I have a question,
Yes,
dumb
ma'am.
question, but who actually physically paints all that stuff?
So the company that does it is the Christmas Light Pros.
Okay.
And they do our Christmas decorations as well. And obviously during Christmas time, he has a huge crew, but in the summertime, it's usually him and one or two other people.
Good, so it's professional.
It is
yeah.
professionally done, fully
I'm trying to
licensed,
picture whether you
insured.
and Audrey are out there on ladders.
We were once, and I even had Steve, and
I'm
then
tall, but I'm not
realized
that
it was
tall.
a big no-no.
Yeah,
Um,
good
So,
for our liability.
yeah.
The city requires you to use a license, not transparent.
So, and then the banners are also done by Monterey Signs. And it wasn't quite an RFP, but I went out and I contacted like 6 or 7 different vendors. And Monterey Signs is still, for 1 or 2 things that were a little bit more expensive, but overall they were the best deal around. Christmas Light Pros, there's nobody else who really does this. Like I've looked around, nobody local, let's put it that way. We could probably get an outfit out of like San Jose or something, but then you're paying San Jose prices. So we're cognizant, obviously, of the the member funds that we spend. And while it does add up, it is the best deal we're finding at this time.
Great,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
great, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to SOBO.
You want me to say? Okay, great. So SOBO, status quo, landscaping is doing its thing. We're just about, all of our contracts that we executed regarding the updates are done, and I was told by Salinas that this week is when they're finishing up or doing the planter boxes. But I hadn't really seen a lot of motion there, so adding new rocks and things like that and updating some of the plants. So hopefully they're out there today and tomorrow. But she said this week, but it'll probably bleed into next week a little bit. We're finding a lot of transients sleeping around. Like Roger is, waking up in the morning, a lot of trash. The events generally leave more trash. The summer months were trashier. And we're noticing some of the trash enclosures are getting beat up pretty good. And I'm missing a bunch of locks. And that's generally a public issue, and it's a training issue on their end. So I'm contacting Republic, I'm telling them, hey, we're missing a lock here, we're missing a lock here, we're missing a lock here. And I've got a couple of work orders into the city to replace some of the trash cans due to vandalism / destruction. So, yeah.
Okay. Land use?
Yeah, so we had our latest committee meeting a couple days ago, actually. Thanks, Frank, Peter, and Jay. for participating, appreciate it. And we reviewed some of our like ongoing priorities for 2025. And this relates to my question to Greg earlier, like, so one of our priorities, and the Land Use Committee is really interested in trying to explore options for this parking management district. And it's not a new concept. We've talked about it as a board, we've talked about it in the past as the Land Use Committee. And we would like to, move forward with the consultant that we had previously engaged. They provided us with a proposal that Peter actually solicited to start looking at options, looking at the amount of revenue that can be generated from this parking district. And I think it's something ultimately the city's gonna have to, set up. It's not something that we can just do unilaterally as SCCIA, but it could, we've seen numbers, or I think Peter has, in the $1 million range, that could help us with actually doing something with the parking situation. So one of the things that we wanted to broach with the board is the possibility of, and it's not agendized, so it'd have to come back probably at a later date, utilizing possibly some of the unrestricted grant funds that I found out are probably more restricted than not to fund this study, because we were told in the past by city staff, and maybe Chris Callahan, the city attorney, weighed in, that it's not something that we can utilize just the general kind of member revenue, the funds we generate from the district for that purpose. But it is something that, we think is a big priority still for our district, and something that we want to fund, and do ourselves. I don't think we can rely upon the city to use their funding to pursue this, but it's also something the city should support because it's part of our vibrancy plan. This isn't like a foreign concept. It was something that is actually expressly contemplated in the vibrancy plan, that it was something the city was going to pursue, which they haven't. So it's on us, essentially, as SCCIA, if we want to, improve our parking situation. I don't think we can rely on anybody else, not the bureaucracy of the city, to move forward with this. So that's one thing. I don't know, Peter, Frank, Jay, if you want to elaborate on that, if you have additional comments, please share.
Well, I think there's a number of benefits. The income is certainly a compelling one, but I think there's also better control of parking, and it's probably a way to solve the public parking being used by employees in the downtown. It should increase the availability of parking, actually, because of the economics. Save time and wear, people driving around all block after block trying to find space in front of the front door. It reduces pollution, there's a lot of benefits to it. I think we just want to quantify it, because I think that will get the attention.
It'll also increase the utility of the parking garage down on Monterey Street. I walked up there last week, and you get past the second floor and it's vacant all the way to the top. Nobody's using it at all. So that's crazy. Just to finance that structure alone, this parking district is required. I don't see any other way that the city's going to get money back on this. So to me, this is a no-brainer. We really have to push hard on this. And if we can get this study done and the city looks at it and says, oh, yeah, this is a revenue generator for the city and for our district, then I think it's a win-win for everybody.
So part of that would be to cite case studies, because there's going to be resistance from merchants on this. But there's been examples where merchants have gone through that resistance, but once it was implemented, are now supporting the benefits of their district.
Yeah, so Peter was gonna reach out to the consultant, because that proposal's old, right? So just, it's the same price, or I think the last one came in at around 25K, I think it was. So, Peter will reach out to, dust off that proposal and see if the numbers are any different, or if it's ready to go.
Do we have a good tight specification that we're giving that consultant, Peter?
Yeah, no, he's got a clear scope of work in his proposal.
But didn't we agree that was probably at least 50 or 60 to really do the entire job?
Well, I'm not sure. This is not to implement the parking district.
No.
This is just an economic study.
Okay.
Well, it's still kind of an open question because it's a big job. That's why I think we have to have some tight specs. We've been talking about 25 grand, and I think that's a little bit measly. what we really want to accomplish here.
Well, we kind of backed his proposal into a limit, a bylaw limit or something we have, that we can sole source
Yeah.
up to a certain amount. If it goes more than that, we'd have to put it competitively, which would be preparing a request for proposals and advertising it and assessing the various proposals and entering into a contract. Yeah.
Greg, is that specification available with the proposal from the consultant?
Yeah, I think we have shared it before.
I could dig it up somewhere.
I just have to review that.
Take a look at it.
And our limit is $25,000 without having to go out to bid. So.
And then, I guess, if our intention is to show this to the city, is there any way for us to make sure that what the spec that he just referred to is gonna be acceptable to them? Because what we don't wanna do is go spend some money, and then have them come back, well, we like this, but you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that.
I think we have to be really careful about how involved we get the city in this.
Yeah, but what we don't wanna do is,
I'd like the products that come to us, and then the recommendation come from us to the city, without having the city pollute the process.
So I think we should use
a little
Manatoni.
bit of a chicken and an egg,
A little bit.
I think we've got legal counsel Manatoni, can look at that. He's very familiar with the city players and the city's, charters and stuff, and have him just, make sure we're do this properly.
Yeah, so, Greg, it's kind of, you had mentioned earlier, so there's 111,000 in grant funds, right? But a fair amount of it's restricted, so is it of your, I haven't seen any of the terms of these grants, so I don't know to what extent we might be able, we have a fund right now that we can potentially utilize. You made a comment earlier that you think we either need to request a grant for this specific purpose, or at least we reach out maybe on the grants that provide more flexibility, let them know that, hey, this is one of the things we'd like to move forward, we think it's a benefit to the district, and get their sort of blessing to move forward.
Yeah, I don't want to spend it and then in a report give to them, hey, we spent $30,000.
Well, we can check in with them, so
Yeah,
let's
we can
get a
check in.
number of what
Yeah.
it would cost, and then we
Right.
can reach out and talk with them.
Yeah.
and-
Some of them might be, that's fine, use it for that. Then if they do that, then we're
Right.
clear to go that route.
Does anybody remember what why Callahan said we couldn't use already budgeted funds?
I don't recall the logic. I don't.
Well, it's the members' money. You can't
Right.
use the members', contributions for things that are other than, or.
Like there's beautification, right, there are purposes, the way this thing was set up, right? So maybe its conclusion was, this type of parking district is not within the
It's like the
parameters or
same
whatever.
reason land use isn't a funded, it's a non-funded committee.
One other quick observation, and I'm sorry Steve isn't here, but if I remember correctly, the parking lot north of City Hall and the one across the street from City Hall should have closed by now. I think Tater Farms owns those.
they do.
And I doubt 3/4 of the employees that park north of City Hall have a clue. So once they start construction, that's going to be a housing project. Once they start construction, may give us some impetus to, because I don't think the city employees have a clue, which would help.
Well, there is a huge empty parking lot across from the post office. My guess is that's where they're all going.
That is rented out, contracted out to county or
Yes.
court system for their jurors and whatnot. Yeah.
The city owns it, but the city entered into a lease back 15 or 20 years ago to the county.
But,
We must not have many jurors, because I never see any cars on there.
and that's the parking district, we need to manage our resources better.
Yeah, so we talked about that issue, and I think it's something we'd like to pursue, and then that's the only thing that requires some kind of expenditure. And then the other thing is, just to let everybody know, the city is going through this general plan update process. The general plan, if you've never heard of it, is basically the blueprint for how this city will grow down the road. It includes goals, policies, and objectives relative to land use policies. And so, there could be opportunities as part of that general plan update. The economic development element is a component of that. to try to drive policies that are favorable to the downtown area that could, maybe streamline projects and development. So it's something that we, as a land use committee, will continue to keep our eye on. It's something that's gonna be coming up, and I think the goal is for the city council to adopt this thing in December of this year. I'm a little skeptical if that will happen. These things you have a tendency to drag on for 2, 3, 4, 5 years because they're a long-term 25-year plan. So it takes time to put them together. It shouldn't be rushed. And also, Peter has a group that is heavily involved in the economic development element, which is a component of the general plan, going through line by line a lot of the policies in there to make sure the city doesn't lose sight of this document that was adopted many years ago that's supposed to drive economic development of the city. So Peter, I don't know if you want to talk any more about that.
Well, this was, I got out with the Sparks Citizens Plan and Research Corporation, which was created in, 2014, something like that. And it was delivered off of the mayor's Imagine a Great City motto, which is very inspiring, but you being an architect, obviously, you got to plan for the great city, so that's kind of why we came together. So we had some early successes, including the soccer fields that we spun off Salinas Regional Sports Authority, but that's a Spark project. And the city manager, Ray Corpus, saw that. We were able to unify the community behind that vision, so he asked us to do this with economic development. And it was very successful. I mean, it was a very broad, inclusionary project, very diverse groups. I mean, everybody was involved, business was involved, construction was involved, farm worker housing, and housing prices, and farmer worker interests. So everybody was involved, and it was very successful. It was highly supported. The 26 people spoke in favor of it in the public comment period before the council. No objections. Went on to win 3 planning awards, including 2 statewide awards. So with this update, we've kind of felt we need to get back together and help define what that update would be. So the chamber is very active in that. Colleen is there. We're having a meeting after this one, and literally we're going through it, item by item in good faith. The city has found it, I think, a little bit daunting task. So we're trying to simplify things and edit it and prioritize certain actions.
What are they doing with height limits and with the ability, I'm thinking about that project where the Starbucks is right there on the corner of Monterey and John. Remember that project couldn't get done because of some issue that came up. I don't know if it's because of the drive-through or whatever. And it sat, that property sat for years. Well, they tried to figure out how to make it work. And then all of a sudden, the gal who was running the redevelopment department, she left, went south, and all of a sudden we've got a Starbucks there. I mean, it's like it came out of nowhere.
We did not run redevelopment, thank you, sir, it was community development.
Community development. I'm just hoping that this new plan that comes out leaves some room for imagination.
So this is what, another important update is a part of that, is the zoning ordinance is also being updated.
Yeah.
So these documents only get updated about every 20 years.
Right.
So, for instance, if you look at housing prices, it's the land use policy that drives housing prices,
Absolutely.
Because if you don't have the production, you're gonna have unaffordable housing. So the zoning ordinance drives that. Particularly parking requirements, minimum lot sizes, minimum house sizes. You gotta build a house for 2 cars, to build a single house, so we can't afford it. House people, and the zoning ordinance makes us house cars.
You can have all that, and then you just can't have any water, so it's the whole deal with it. It's not-
Well, it is, absolutely is, and that's what the economic development is. We're, Colleen, secured an infrastructure edition of about 5 pages dealing with water and wastewater that came out of the ag community. So, it's all important. It's the thing, you got to do it all well.
Well, I mean, these vacant spaces, those traffic impact fees are enormous. Like, there was this project that we helped on in South Maine where the city was just converting a furniture store into a retail use, and they wanted $2.1 million in impact fees.
Yeah.
I mean, how is any per tenant able to, it would take you 100 years to and generate a profit, depending on what type of business it is. $2.1 million in impact fees, so we got it down to about 200,000, after,
How much is it was city versus TAMSI?
city.
It's all city.
Well, they both have
City,
traffic.
Yeah, they both have impact fees,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's the city one that was extraordinary, but that's, through your general plan update process, you can include policies about, we want to waive impact fees for,
Yes.
different kinds of uses
Flexibility.
and turning, which would allow a lot of these vacant spaces in.
So I was talking to the Farm Bureau, Norm Group, about those additions, and he started talking about the Amazon warehouse in South Salinas and the traffic issues with that. And I opened up the economic development element, I pointed out, well, there's a solution to this. We have an east side bypass. So the traffic from Amazon is from the freeway to, I think it's Hollister, they have another plant?
Yeah.
So they're not doing deliveries out of the Salinas facility.
There's two of
But
them.
if you have the east side expressway, that traffic would bypass all our city streets.
Yeah, well, anyway, keep your eye open for the general plan update. I mean, these are important policies that can provide the kind of flexibility that we need in the city center to help, make it more vibrant. These policies, we've got a great council too that would be, I think, very supportive of policies. So it's just, I think at some point, maybe as a land use committee, we'll need to dig into that, land use element of that general plan to make sure at least there's nothing in there that's going to hinder what we're trying to accomplish.
Specifics.
So anyway, that's it for the land use report.
Okay, perfect. Any public comment? No. Okay, we'll move on to our action items. I can pull it back up. Our action items for our bylaws. I know we've had a couple drafts of the bylaws and a few edits. Nothing has changed since our original edits. I think we got from Greg, Amy, and our Peter. The two of you guys had made some comments. Nobody else. I do have a question though that I just asked Matt. I was like, oh, which is really frustrating to me because I wanted to get this off of our plate. But given the FPPC complaint, the complaint and then the ruling, I wonder, I really want to explore the,
The board doesn't know what that is right now. No one knows.
oh, okay.
You want to explain what that was?
Yeah, sure. So Andrew Sandoval filed a fair political practice complaint against Greg and I, saying that we did not file our Form 700, which you have to do if you are
Public agency.
a public agency, and also that we would update our,
Statement of economic interest policy.
yes. But
And what is Form 700 for?
So Form 700 is a SCI, Statement of Economic Interest, and we were,
And what is it? What is it?
it basically says like, I have 700 that's on file because I'm a traffic commissioner, so it says where my income is, what my income bracket is, what assets I own, what particular stock conflicts.
So it's a disclosure of your
Exactly.
income
And like I have Amazon stock, so I specifically wrote that on there because I'm part of the traffic commission that,
Got it. Thank
so
you.
since our inception, our organization has never done this by anybody ever. And our bylaws specifically say that we are exempt from doing that. And if our entire bylaws had been sent to the FPCC, they would have read that we wouldn't have to comply, but only a portion was sent in the complaint, which we then in turn provided them the entire document, which showed that we were exempt. And when, as we know, people who formed this organization to begin with, it was intentionally set up that it was not a public agency, and that was done with intention and is included in the bylaws. So now that this has all been brought to light and had a discussion of it, it's given us a deeper look at the scenario. And the question for me is, why are we following the Brown Act at this point? And if we can eliminate that from our bylaws, based on that, let's move forward in that direction. So that's my comment to Matt, to see what is possible on that. I think my understanding of the people who, when they formed this, correct me, anybody if I am wrong, is that they did that just for transparency purposes, with good intent, to have us subject to the Brown Act. But given the unnecessary legal fees we are incurring over things like this, and some of the unnecessary other things that we are experiencing, maybe we can just get rid of the Brown Act. I think we should still keep a level of public availability out there, just because we are receiving those assessment funds, so people should understand what they're being used for, have all of that information accessible on the website, just for transparency. We all believe in transparency.
We already do that, right? We post everything. We
Yeah,
post our-
so I'd say we continue to do that. So we already are doing that, we continue to do that, but some of the way that our meetings are run, and we wouldn't, maybe we don't, why is that there, is my question. So I was gonna say we're ready to move forward with our bylaws and have that done, but now given this being brought to light, we need to look into that further.
I think that's right.
Yeah, I agree.
Question on the bylaws as they're proposed, the changes. I noticed that the executive committee is essentially eliminated. Is
Yeah.
that-
So that's what I saying. So originally, the bylaws were written that we could have executive meetings and things like that, but we don't. We don't have executive meetings. And executive meetings are subject to the Brown Act, where we have to agendize and whatnot, and notify. But we don't have additional exec meetings with our team. We just have our monthly board meetings. So
You don't have the need to.
there's no need
Yeah,
to.
there's-
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
I think if we met quarterly, it would make sense to do that, but the
Yeah.
fact that we monthly, it's kind of unnecessary.
Right.
Yeah,
Committee doesn't do it.
Fine.
any other questions on them though?
So the only other thing I saw in the bylaws was the elimination of like telephonic meetings and being a board member being able to participate that way. So I mean,
And
my
that's due to
perspective is
Brown
like,
Act.
why not just, what's that?
The Brown Act.
Oh, that's a Brown Act related.
It's a
I-
requirement.
So if that,
Yeah,
the
okay.
Brown Act gets taken out, we can open that up to
Yeah,
being a
okay.
possibility.
It's a double.
So Brown Act doesn't allow, I thought it allowed these, those kinds of.
It's
No
very
longer.
restricted.
No longer, okay.
It was a
During
COVID.
pandemic, it did,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, all right.
So I mean,
So some jurisdictions still allow Zoom meetings and that kind of thing, but it's not,
you can.
you like to allow public participation that way,
Yeah.
not necessarily.
Because I think
board
Councilman
members.
Barrera, I think, dialed in a few months ago or a month or two ago, because I don't know, he was somewhere.
Yeah,
But I'm not sure if he was allowed to vote, but he could make comments. And I think that there is some rules related to that. I'm not positive.
or I think the issue is if you're dialing in from somewhere, you gotta put like a notice on your door at the
Yeah,
hotel
yeah.
to invite
And
people
then let
to
people
sit in
in.
with you, yeah.
Come hang out with me.
You're in Hawaii and you wanna participate, you gotta
Have a pina colada.
hang out in your room. Yeah.
It is, yeah.
I
So
think
it's-
that's what it is, okay, all right, got it.
So I mean, there's pros and cons to it. I mean, the Brown Act does allow, and it forces us to stay transparent
Yeah.
in terms of meetings, but we're already doing the vast majority of it. I mean, we're putting everything on our website. I received public records requests from some people, and literally the questions that they're asking, they're all on our website, like, right there. So our minutes, our agenda items, our, past annual reports, resolutions from the city, they're all on our website. So, like, a lot of this stuff is becoming redundant and to be quite honest, a time waster, because it's already there.
Yeah.
So as long as we continue doing that stuff, but the goal is not to become obviously a secretive.
Well, we could write that into our bylaws while not being
Exactly.
subject to the Brown Act at the same time and make that, because we do care about transparency, and I think it's important for us to have the information accessible to the public. So I don't want to recommend taking that away at all, but if we can eliminate unnecessary games and stuff, would be great.
Yeah.
Any public comments on that?
So
Sure.
you're basically saying let's just
I'm
table
asking,
the.
yes, oh, sorry, yes, I am asking that we postpone making a vote on the bylaws.
Yeah, I don't think you need a motion.
You don't need a motion to table it?
I don't think you need one.
Okay. You got it.
Agenda items.
All right.
Sure, why not? I'll just throw out there, just for suggestion wise or whatever. If you want to get rid of the Brown Act, get rid of your public employee.
I'm not sure about, okay, thank you. We've got the district coordinator update for our website.
So, a month or two ago, or a month ago, I mentioned that I detest our website, and I kind of went off on the wild goose chase, and I made a website. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to click on it, on the agenda item, but I've owned a domain for years called 123mainstreet.com. So I parked a copy of our website on there to to see what it would look like. And basically it updates it, it shows our public meetings better, it shows our announcements better, it highlights all of our vendors, it allows me to put more information online. I would almost say, bring it up really quick, but if you want, I will hand this around so at least you can see what the main page looks like. But basically what I'm asking for is for the board to give me direction to move on fleshing out this website and making the cutover. And I'm not sure if you guys all know this, but in my past life, I was an IT consultant. So like this stuff is not beyond my realm of knowledge. Doing this kind of stuff is, I don't know if you guys noticed, but you haven't received a single IT bill over the last 3 years. So, like I just do it.
One of your secret weapons.
It is. And so it allows me to highlight all the events, because I'm basically putting together all of the things that I've been collecting over the past 2-3 years in terms of businesses, events, happenings, stuff, in a more modern website format that is mobile capable, so it actually formats properly if you're on your iPhone or an Android or whatever device you have. So, and I will work with, obviously it's not going to be unilateral, but I'll work with Jenna to make sure that we do our branding properly. There's some tweaks that we need to make to it, but the general framework is built. So.
I think it's okay.
And you don't have to pay some marketing company $10,000 to $15,000 for this, because that's what it's going to cost for you guys to do a new website. On the low end.
I wish we could pull it up. I like safety things.
Yeah, there's a security.
Yeah, I didn't buy a certificate for it, because every website requires to be HTTPS now, and it does have a security certificate on it, but it's a self-signed certificate. So I'm basically saying, trust me, I'm okay. Instead of having a third-party verification saying, trust me, he's fine. So if you approve it and trust the website, which there's no financial transactions or anything on there, so it's literally just you're encrypting the traffic, and I'm saying it's okay, it's me.
Would that be the new domain, or would we use, because it's currently an SCCIA?
No, so basically this here, this is just a placeholder.
Yeah, that would move over to the
I would just take the whole thing,
Yeah.
pack it all up, chuck it on our existing domain name.
Okay.
And downtime would be minimal, so.
I love the e-newsletter that you sent all the happenings in downtown. That would be
Very much like this. So one of the efforts I've been doing lately is not just all the happenings downtown, I'm actively bugging people for their flyers. Like, give me your flyers. If you have something going on, give me the flyer, and it's much more like visually appealing. People like seeing that kind of stuff.
I love that you put it all the way down to like August, I think, like how something happened.
Yeah, well, some of the big ones I put on there, but, and this also kind of ties into a little side project I've also been doing. I have digital signage on our office right now, and all of those flyers that I'm getting from all of these events, I'm also putting on the digital signage. So it's kind of a uniform look. We have the same thing everywhere for everybody, at all times.
I was just, sorry,
Yeah, I knew you were about
I'm
to
not
cast it.
techie, we should have,
I know, I thought
I
about
would
it
have
today.
loved to have this set up so you could do this. I'm not sure if I have the,
Well, you're still working on it. We can look at it for the next round.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then we can actually plan on making sure you have it available, because I'm not sure I can get it out soon enough.
We're all pretty much in agreement that a refresh is a good idea.
No, it refreshes me, the old one is old.
Yeah, if we can save some money doing it, then yay.
Well, and all
I
the
really
current,
like this, I like the link to MySpace.
well, and all the data that's on the current website, all of the minutes, all of the agendas, all of that stuff will remain as it is, except I'll polish it a little bit, so it's a little bit more usable. But all the data will transfer over. Like, we're not gonna lose anything. So,
That's great. Thank you.
You have a lot of, way too much time on your hands now, you can't run your mountain bike.
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, there
Rub
you
it
go.
in. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, and it's to our benefit, so it's exciting. Any public comment on that item? Any further board
I
questions?
had one question on that. We talked about that pass-through
Yes.
right next to the Lauderdale building. Yeah. You mentioned that we don't do any cleaning or anything, but we put up banners and things in there.
Yeah, we do.
So why aren't we cleaning? That is my question.
Never come up property.
And the other thing is, maybe you could do a little check to see if there is any kind of a public easement through there. But it really smells bad, and I feel bad for this new tenant going in there in the glass house. That,
Well, so all of that area is private, apparently, and so
Yeah.
that's why we got permission directly from the owner to do the alleyway decorations. So.
Who's the owner?
But we don't hose it down.
Yeah.
But I can ask.
But we can contact Monica and
might
say,
be worth
yeah,
dealing with that.
and
yeah.
she may not even be aware of it, so we should probably do that.
Well, my guess is that once anybody opens in there,
It'll be taken care of.
they'll be taken care of,
Yeah.
because they're gonna,
But in the
show
meantime,
interest, they will.
yeah, in the meantime, okay.
Thanks.
Greg, do we have any idea when Glass Works is gonna open?
No, but they're actively working on it. They are doing a lot of stuff. The inside framing's been done, the kitchen looks like it's been done, the counters, everything, I think they poured self-leveling concrete on the floors by now, I think.
Yeah, the floors look great.
So, okay, I haven't seen the floors.
Just look down, yeah.
And the same thing for Sweet Rebas, by the way. They are hopping and popping. So they just poured, they're gonna put tile in there, and they just poured mortar, self-leveling and a mortar. But somebody broke a window, so they have to take apart part of the wall again, take the window out. They're looking at September 1.
At least nobody shot the building. Like that,
Yeah.
10 days ago. Set it in a shooting gallery, the alley behind the King's Stand.
Really?
Have it all on tape, it's quite amazing.
Oh, wow.
And your building was affected?
No, it was on the Main Street side.
Oh, okay.
My camera's on it. We should have.
So no formal action taken on either of the items, and no more questions, so we are adjourned.